A tense moment here in this crowded health centre just outside Swansea. Yes, the young man steps forward and his worst fear is confirmed. RhysJones, your voice has broken. Welcome to a new series of The World According to Smith and Jones, and we move from history to the humanities. In the next 6 weeks, we'll be investigating subjects as diverse as education and science and the Second World War.
And tonight we examine the world of medicine.
We examine the brilliance of current medical techniques. Yes, sorry, I'm sorry, could we just hold for a moment, please? I'm really sorry. Sorry, there isn't going to be a lot of blood in this thing, is
No,
there?
for heaven's sake, Griff, this is a medical programme. I mean, there's bound to be a bit of, you know...
Yes, well, it's only that,
What, you're a bit squeamish?
No, not at all.
Or you're a bit of a sissy?
No, it's just, no, it's just that if there is a lot of blood, I'm going to throw up, you see. So if we could just
Griff,
be
just
careful
pull yourself
about...
together, because there is absolutely nothing to worry about.
Right.
OK?
All right, fine. Right. Just looked a bit, you know, as if he was going to do something...
Nothing to worry about.
Fine, OK.
On with the gore. The perfect patient having his head amputated, and he's still got time for a woodbine.
Oh, sorry, that's finished, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, I just had something in my eye there, I'm sorry.
We're going to be having this sort of thing all night.
No, I'm fine now, fine, it's all right.
OK. We'll be looking at some classic medical faux pas.
Oh, no.
Here is a patient who misread the word times and ended up taking aspirin 3 tons a day.
And here's another slight mishap.
Do you feel all right?
Well, yes, that's the last time she'll go in to have her ears syringed.
Our story starts thousands of years ago with the very first doctors, way back in the Neolithic era. I mean, have a look at this. Absolutely disgraceful. None of the doctors wearing face masks. The matron prowling around with her tongue hanging out there.
Still, it was his decision to carry a kidney donor card.
Neolithic doctors were clearly very primitive. No prescriptions, no nice white coats, and no such things as flying doctors.
And yet, surprisingly, there were flying patients.
Because as we know, was later just shortened to say ah.
In the exercise of his day-to-day skills, how did the average doctor develop?
Well, quite simply, he got better.
But unfortunately, the same could not be said for his patients. Here is a Roman immunologist with his ancient thermometer in his hand. And you'll understand why the Romans rarely complained about having a temperature.
Of course, in the 19th century, basic surgery was sometimes performed by the barber, with often upsetting results.
Why have you done?
Why have you done
That's a
this?
very good question, I would think. You see, when he asked for a bit off all round, he was talking about his hair.
It wasn't until the early 20th century that you got this. The doctor as we know him. The stylish white coat, the dapper bathing hat, and, of course, round his neck, the Sony Walkman.
The most important element, of course, being the white coat. It was introduced to avoid embarrassing situations like this one.
Isn't there something can be done for him? There's only one thing to do. Operate. I'm going to get the finest surgeon in the country. Why can't you do it?
Because I'm a chartered accountant, you idiot.
But even with the white coat, frankly, medicine was still a hit-and-miss affair. This is a bit of a clumsy attempt to stitch a man's arm back on. Yes, turn the light off, he may not notice.
Deaf as a post, but very useful in the slips.
Yeah. But history was made on the 15th of April, 1927, with the first wholly successful piece of major surgery.
I've I've never seen anything so marvelous. Marvelous is the word.
I've watched surgery all of my life, but I've never seen anything like this. You'll be up and around in no time at all.
Fantastic.
Brilliant piece of surgery.
I've watched surgery all my
Yes,
life.
I know
I've
you
never
have.
seen
I know.
anything so
Marvellous.
brilliant. At least not from a chartered accountant.
And that was actually a major breakthrough in surgery because until that moment, ingrowing toenails had been fatal.
Surgery improved. But what about the doctor-patient relationship? Here's an example of the bedside manner of the 1940s.
I warn you now, it'll mean pain, agony, weeks, months, and then perhaps failure. Perhaps leaving you worse off.
Well, thanks a lot, Doc.
If you thought that was a little blunt.
How is my patient feeling this morning?
I'm all right. She's been in great pain, Doctor.
In pain? Oh, that's good.
Don't you worry about me, Doc. You get stuck in, mate. Hack away.
Yes, he may be a maniac, but at least he's sure of himself.
That's a very, very important point, actually, because a doctor, of course, must always appear confident.
Felix.
No matter how serious the illness, you must never, ever show the slightest signs of anxiety in front of the patient.
Because to become a doctor, it takes years of dedicated training at the hands of wise and learned professors.
And here we see a student facing his final grueling oral examination.
The surgeon doesn't operate without first taking off the patient's clothes.
Well, he's off to a good start, there's no doubt.
Marvellous. Very, very good indeed. Right, on to the next question.
You know what Staples says? The human mind is like Salome at the beginning of her dance, hidden from the outside world by 7 veils. Veils of reserve, shyness, fear.
Yes, well, this is all very interesting, Mr. Hodgkiss, but the question was about verrucas.
Then, after qualification, there's specialisation. What makes a doctor choose, say, psychiatry over dermatology?
Why? Guess I just prefer psychopaths.
Why not? Why not? It's succinct, anyway, isn't it?
Exactly. So do I, if the truth be known. I wouldn't work with you otherwise. But we shouldn't forget that nurses are highly trained as well. It's always comforting to know that you're in expert and reliable hands, ready to cope with any emergency. Any emergency except perhaps a face-to-face encounter with someone who's ill.
For the most part, we have found it's generally the nurses who need the treatment.
Good afternoon, Miss Hunter. You are Miss Hunter, are you not? My name is Erna König, and I speak really excellent English.
Yes, well, a lot of lunatics do, madam.
For heaven's sake, woman. It's no use just shouting at patients' relatives. What is really required is tact.
Well, I'm happy to say she's pulled through.
Yes, she's a lot thinner. She's completely transparent. But apart from that, she's pulled through all right.
It's what she's been pulled through, I'd like to know.
She's got a great future as a role of cling film.
Yes, when breaking news to relatives, a doctor must be very careful what he says.
It's going to be all right.
It's a terrible shame people just don't have more faith in the medical profession.
Sometimes honesty is the best policy.
I have got you into an awful mess. Awful mess.
Yes, he may be in a mess, but wait till he hears what happened to Sooty.
And if the news is bad, it's often advisable to bring in a colleague for a second opinion.
Anything I can do, sir? She does look pretty bad, sir.
Get out of here.
Of course, it helps if the colleague is a doctor and not a sailor. These days, the field of medical research is becoming increasingly competitive, and it's all important to keep ahead of the opposition. Or, in this case, it's important to keep the head of the opposition.
How do you feel?
How does he feel? He can't feel, can he? He hasn't got any hands.
Yes, in modern medicine, no holds are barred in the constant quest for knowledge.
Oh, just a minute. Oh, Oh, God, no, please.
Now, for heaven's sake, Griff, haven't you seen a human brain being cut in half before?
No, I haven't, actually, as a matter of fact.
Well, just hold on. Just watch. It's very interesting.
Oh, God. Oh, dear, no.
Oh. Now watch it. No, this is fascinating.
Oh, no, seriously.
This is serious.
No, seriously. No, oh, no, I do not wish to see this.
No, watch.
Oh, God, I really... No, seriously, I'm feeling ill. Oh!
There we are. Heinz 58th variety. Cream of brain with croutons. You need a drink, mate. You need a drink.
God, I feel dreadful.
Have a drink. You need
Thanks very much.
You don't like croutons. I'm so sorry. Look, we'll be back. Well, I'll be back after the break. Thank you.
Guinness asked me to do this to remind people how good Caliber is. Caliber is brewed as a premium quality lager with the finest ingredients. Then, and only then, is the alcohol taken out. But I think you'll find they missed out something else. That is, it tastes great.
Just for the feel of it, the fun of it, just for the splash of it, Diet Coca-Cola. Just for the one of it, 1 calorie. The feeling I get from it, Diet Coca-Cola. Just for the shape of it, Diet Coke. Just for the fun, woo, just for the thrill, yeah. Diet Coca-Cola. Just for the taste of it, from Coca-Cola. Just for the look of it, Diet Coca-Cola.
An historic moment. July the 1st, 1941, and this lucky patient is fitted with the very first pacemaker. Oh dear. Back to the drawing board with that one.
But thankfully today, methods are far more sophisticated.
If a trifle insensitive to the feelings of the patient.
Picture the scene. You go into hospital to have your tonsils out. Sign here, please. You don't read the small print, and hey presto.
You wake up as a 50-piece jigsaw puzzle. And then you go and complain about the shoddy stitching. You find the surgery empty. And, of course, everybody's gone off to the pub, haven't they?
Medically, what had obviously happened in that particular operation was that the head had rejected the body.
Now, of course, rejection is a major problem in the world of microsurgery. Witness this poor patient whose moustache has failed to take. But the success rate is now improving, and many of you will probably not realise that this lady was constructed entirely from an old Action Man, 2 biros and a toilet seat.
And the process works in reverse. From the leftovers of Michael Jackson, the surgeon managed to construct this. Not as good a dancer, but more comfortable to sit on.
The results of plastic surgery can be distressing. I mean, that'll teach him to operate on himself. For those who can't afford plastic surgery, there is fortunately an alternative.
Stay ugly.
Yeah. Obviously, staying ugly is far easier if you're with the NHS.
It's not the finest hospital in England, and I dare say I'm not the most lenient matron. I'll stand no nonsense, and I offer no favoritism. You're entitled to 1/2 a day a week off, if you're lucky. Extra duty, if you're not. No smoking, no cosmetics, and you share a bedroom. Those are the conditions here, neither better nor worse than I have explained them. If they're not to your liking, I shall appreciate your stepping out now, rather than wasting your time or mine. I hope you'll be happy here. Report to the medical examiner. Next.
Well, what a dreadful way to welcome a patient, really.
And before you're allowed treatment on the NHS, you have to bow 100 times to the staff, chanting the phrase, "Thank you very much for the bed."
And trying to get an appointment with an NHS doctor can be a daunting experience.
I'm afraid you can't see Dr. Bain.
Oh. Well, do you have any idea when I might be able to see him?
You can't see him at all.
Why isn't he here?
No, he's here.
Well, then, do you have any idea when he'll be free?
Leo's always free.
Is he free now?
He's always free.
Then why can't I see him?
Because he's invisible.
Bloody health cuts.
Yes, I'm afraid the standards are dropping daily. Services are being cut, hospitals closed.
And doctors are becoming invisible. Now let's compare that to the private sector, where it's chocolate and Grand Marnier mousse after every meal. And they can certainly afford such luxury.
Indeed, because while you're checking into your room, they're checking into your wallet.
There we are, 150 quid. That takes care of the extra pillow.
Although, to be fair, once you've paid, you are guaranteed dedicated expert attention, even if you don't want it.
Well, not today. Stay there. Here, come on. Take a sniff of this.
Not me.
I'm your doctor. You do what I tell you. That's better. Yeah, come on.
No.
Take a sip of brandy.
I'm choking to death already.
You're still under my care. Come on.
And she just came in to visit her sister.
In the private sector, even in a routine checkup, the friendly and efficient staff are always on hand to ensure that every possible whim is catered for. Well, that's one way of taking his temperature.
Actually, I must say, I quite like the look of this private lark. I must say.
Yeah. Well, you have to be ill, Mel. So, anyway...
I've got a bit of a cough, actually.
Have you really? So it's hardly surprising when you consider the choice, squalor or expense that many patients are now turning to alternative medicine with its emphasis on natural healing.
This is your medicine. You must eat this. And you must bury this outside your hut. And then you must eat the heart of a child. The child must be a small girl, and she must have a twin sister. But the sister must not be touched.
And just do that 3 times a day after meals.
And come back in a week if you've still got the chilblains.
Natural childbirth is becoming increasingly popular.
This pregnant woman is employing the Wayne sleep method. The theory here being that the baby becomes so dizzy that it simply pops out in order to have a bit of a lie down.
Now, the danger here, of course, is that you give birth to Bonnie Langford.
Of course, many techniques in the world of alternative medicine are, let's face it, a touch controversial.
Mavis, here's what you do. The next time you feel your intestine coming out, just move your hands in front of your face 3 times, like that. Yes, and then the intestines will stay inside.
Alternatively, just cut back on the vindaloos.
Whatever happens, NHS, private or alternative, there will always be doctors and patients. And, of course, where there's doctors and patients, there will always be Mills and Boone, a dash of romance.
And if you don't fancy your doctor, you can always make a play for the nurse.
What are you doing? Well, it's pretty obvious what he's doing, I'm told. It's in fact the Mel Smith chat-up technique. Not a great believer in small talk, Mel. But if love does flourish in the corridors of healing, then the relationship is usually a sure and steady one.
My place is here by my husband's side.
But why?
Why? Would you go if you look like this?
Well, I don't know. Bit heavy on the mascara, maybe, but I'll feel worse down the limelight on a Monday night, I think.
It all goes to prove that ancient adage...
She has the courage of a rabbit.
Yes, a small rabbit.
Yes, the well-worn, perhaps overused expression, you have the courage of a small rabbit.
Or this one.
Would you give me a clean rabbit?
Of course. Scalpel, swab, clean rabbits.
It doesn't have to be a courageous rabbit, but it would help.
The world of medicine has its own exclusive, complicated language. Would you know what to do when faced with this request?
And don't forget the giggly saw.
The giggly saw?
Yes, the giggly saw, you know. The one you use for removing the funny bone.
Moving as quickly as possible onwards, would you know what this man was on about?
The underlying principle is to interfere with the transmission of the spermatozoon and other secretions from being ejected to the outside. This is done by the excision of part of each seminal duct, which is then tied off.
I see.
Or in layman's terms, I'm afraid we're going to be dibbling around with your tiddlies.
In fact, this sort of language can seem like pomposity. And in fact, it is pomposity. But by talking such,
bollocks.
Yeah, well, not exactly the way I'd have put it, Mel, but by talking such bollocks, the doctor ensures that his profession remains out of the reach of riffraff like Mel.
Yeah.
I mean, if your doctor says that your internal subdural epiglots are fractioning due to a breakdown of your lymphoid alinglectomies, is this good news or bad news?
Well, it's difficult to tell, isn't it?
I should think so, yes.
But there is one vitally important phrase to look out for. It is, I'm afraid you're going to die.
No, seriously, it's a sure sign that something is up.
Yeah. Now, your doctor may not be quite so frank, so here we have translated for you some of the profession's favoured euphemisms.
If we operate right away, I think there's a good chance.
I'm afraid you're going to die.
Well, it's good news. All the tests are clear, so you've got nothing to worry about.
I'm afraid you're going to die.
The doctor will be here in a minute. I'm sure everything's going to be all right.
And I'm afraid you're going to die.
So how do you recognise death?
Well, firstly, you'll look like this. Here are a few other things to look out for. General fatigue, a reduced sex drive, a curious smell, and, of course, finding a little name tag on your big toe.
Thank God for that.
What?
What? Till we got to the bit about the name tag on the big toe, I was getting a bit worried there, to be quite honest.
Well, I wouldn't get too optimistic, Mel. So what have we learned from tonight's investigation?
Soddle.
And the best advice I think we can give to you is don't get ill.
No, don't. And if there is no alternative and you simply must be ill, then for God's sake, get better quickly.
So that's about it for tonight. Next week, we'll be looking at the
Griff,
whole...
can we just
yes,
hang on for a moment?
Yeah.
It's just because I have come up with something.
Have you really?
Yes. Rather interesting. I've managed to actually find out what doctors keep in their black bags.
That's fascinating.
I knew you'd be fascinated.
No, we would all love
can we
to
have,
see
can
that.
we have a look at the clip? I'm afraid, in fact, that what doctors keep in their black bags is another doctor. Always handy for a second opinion.
I think that's about time to say goodnight. And what's your opinion on this?
Yes, I'd agree with that. Yes, it is time to say goodnight.
Good, fine. Good night.